Hi guys, and welcome to today's video. I'm going to be talking about the first 8 books that I've read so far this month. Not gonna lie, it feels like it's been a pretty underwhelming start. I think maybe the highest rating I've given so far is a 4-star, but everything else has felt kind of subpar, with a couple shocking disappointments as well. So let's get started with the first thing that I listened to through my BorrowBox app, which is the library app, and that is A Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting by Sophie Irwin. This is like a Regency romance, kind of coming of age historical piece, and I gave this a total rating of 3 out of 5 stars. We follow the adventures from the POV of an unconventional heroine called Kitty, who throws herself into the high society scene of London to find herself a wealthy husband to get her and her sisters out of an immense amount of debt after her parents had passed away. This was a really fun story with a rambunctious heroine. I really enjoyed seeing Kitty try to scheme her way and schmooze her way to the top echelons of society when she had no training for this kind of life whatsoever. She was definitely a resourceful main character. However, in saying that, I wasn't super invested in her story, and I definitely didn't absorb all the information that I needed to. I actually listened to this because I had the physical sequel, which I didn't realise was a sequel, out on loan, and I was intending to pick that up and read it, and then I was like, there's a book before this one, so I just found it quite quickly ready to borrow on the app. But now I've since returned the sequel, which is A Lady's Guide to Scandal, and I don't necessarily know if I'm gonna make it a priority to continue on. It was fun, don't get me wrong, but it's not one that is like top of my list to get to. Okay, moving on, I read a comic. This is Miss Marvel Stretched Thin by Nadia Seamus, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. This is a new original middle grade graphic novel following Kamala, who is having a very difficult time just juggling being your average teenager and also being a superhero on the side, saving the world. I really liked the style of this graphic novel, in all aspects really, especially the colour tone and the art style. I thought it was really unique to look at. I would definitely love more of this type of superhero story. It just felt very low stakes and chill, but still exciting and enjoyable enough to want to actually pick it up and read. It was very down to earth and refreshing. Following that, I read an ebook once again through the library app, and this is I Am the Swarm by Hayley Chains. It's kind of like body horror, magical realism, and it's written in prose. And I thought I was going to really enjoy this one. It's got a stunning cover, as you guys can see, and I'm not going to lie, I was definitely brought in by that. And I think it was a bit of style over substance for me. This one I unfortunately gave a 2 out of 5 stars. As I say, it's a novel in verse that blends contemporary magic alongside feminine rage. We're following our main character called Nell, whose matriarch side of the family has always exhibited a strange and unusual type of magic when their 15th birthday comes around. And Nell sees this as a burden and a curse for how her family has been treated through it. Wise and thematically, it was a fascinating concept with a strange but I feel enticing combination of both whimsical and brutal metaphors. But I do think a lot of the true meaning kind of went over my head, because it was almost a bit too flowery for me to grasp a true understanding of what the point of that initial conversation was, what that actual thought process was. I was kind of left behind with how florally it all was. I also found, unfortunately, that the characters just felt kind of surface level in creation, and they kind of lacked personality, especially Nell, whose mindset and headspace we were in for the whole duration. I really wish I liked this one. It's kind of a bitter one because I thought I was going to really enjoy it, and I think a lot of people would like this. It's got a lot of merit if you've got that way of thinking that you can look at it, I don't even know, not critically is not the right word, but if you've almost got that studying background and you can piece it together and appreciate it, it could be a really enjoyable novel, a really profound novel. But it just missed the mark for me, unfortunately. Next up, I did some blended reading. I finally started the Wings of Fire series, starting with the Dragonette Prophecy, and this is by 2E.T. Sutherland. It's a children's fantasy adventure series, and I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. We're following 5 dragonettes who are like baby dragons, right, who are collected to fulfill the prophecy that will end the war. They're raised in a hidden cave against their will, and not every dragon there wants a destiny. I loved that this was from the perspective of a dragon rather than, you know, your typical dragon rider where it's very like human centric. This felt very much like, oh my god, these are the dragons, they've all got very different personalities, they've got a whole world and lore, and you're learning it from their perspective, and I really enjoyed that as a lover of dragon books. It actually was a true dragon book, if you know what I mean. My favourite dragons in particular were Clay and Sunny. I felt like Sunny just always saw the good in everyone and was just so innocent, and everyone seemed to look out for her as like a little sister, and Clay had that big brother protective energy which he would do anything for anyone, and I just absolutely adored both of them. This was surprisingly brutal with some really dark scenes that I wasn't expecting for a story of this nature, but I don't think it was handled badly at all. The narration though, I would have preferred someone else. It just felt poorly voiced and oddly flirtatious in tone. I don't know if any of you have listened to the audiobook version. I think it's through Audible, but it just like, it sounded weird. If you guys know what I mean, please let me know, because I feel like I'm being really picky and really odd about it, but it just didn't sound right for the type of story that we had. Moving on, I listened to yet another book, and that was Rick by Alex Gino, and I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. This is the sequel to Melissa, which was previously known by George, if any of you kind of recognise the author and the like title and stuff but can't quite place it. It's retitled as Melissa, and we're following a different character, a character of course in that world, and that is Rick. So now that he is in middle school, he begins to question his friendship with the class bully Jeff, and also question his own identity. So this was a really sweet follow-up. It felt like a really lovely redemption arc of sorts, because obviously you've got this duo, Jeff is like the bully and Rick kind of goes along for the ride, but you do, even in Melissa, see him quite hesitant and reluctant in a lot of scenes to go through with things, and even at times like telling Jeff to stop, but he's still like an accomplice, if you know what I mean. Like he still doesn't outwardly go out of his way to call Jeff out until this point, and I feel like it's the redemption arc that he needed, especially to be true to himself and also to be a better ally and a better friend and a better just human being on their own self-discovery journey. I enjoyed seeing this start-up of the school's LGBTQIA+ group, how Rick learnt to find his place in amongst it all. This was a really heartwarming story. Okay, some books I actually have that I can hold up. Oh, sorry, Elsa. I just dropped one of them on Elsa. She was like lounging and then it just landed on her. Poor baby girl. So the next book that I finished off, and it took me 10 days to read a graphic novel. 10 days! Literally started on the 7th, finished it on the 17th. I read it in 2 halves, and boy was it a struggle. This is The Wicked and the Divine Volume 2 Fandemonium by Kieran Gillen. It's fantasy, it's, I don't know if you'd call it horror, it's kind of like body horror I guess, and unfortunately I gave this a 1.5 out of 5 stars. Basically it's set in a world where gods are reincarnated every 90 years as the greatest pop stars, and their purpose really is just to come back to Earth to inspire humanity, but the crux of that is within 2 years they're all dead. This period is called the Resurgence, and then of course humanity are inspired and everything's supposed to be golden, and then the next 90 years it happens again. I reread the first volume recently after not reading it maybe for 10 years and pretty much ruling it off, but something just spoke to me. I wanted to give it another go, and it was more of a success the second time round reading volume 1, so I thought, okay, let's move on now, let's go ahead and read volume 2, which I hadn't read previously. And we just went straight back to square one, unfortunately. The characters once again just felt one-dimensional to me, and the plot was hard to follow and just all over the place and pace, and just it didn't make sense really. It was just, once again, and it's something that I've been saying a lot recently, especially since getting back into this world, which I'm now swiftly going to depart from this world, not like the mortal realm anyway. It was definitely style over substance. Laura as a main character as well is just absolutely insufferable, and I can't stand her, so there's that. Okay, so next up, I set myself a little bit of a challenge kind of later on in the month, to be honest, and that was my like Stephen King summer. I know it's not like unique to me, other people have done challenges like this, but I wanted like a little low energy chill vibe just to read a couple more Stephen King, because I've got a whole like pretty much like square shelf or two behind me filled up with his books, even though I'm not aiming to get to those ones necessarily because they are the chunkier ones. I just want to read a little bit more of his backlist, and so I started with one that was on my shelf and was one of the smaller ones, even though it took me a while to get through, and that is Joyland by Stephen King. And it was a bit of a bummer, like my first official book of this mini challenge, it left a lot to be desired, so I ended up giving this one a 2 out of 5 stars. And we're following Dev, who whilst working during the summertime at a amusement park called Joyland, he kind of falls into the unsolved mystery of these murdered girls and gets caught up in it. It wasn't very entertaining, and in fact quite a lot of the times it felt rather dull. The supernatural thread that I was personally more interested in just felt too light a touch, and it never really got its teeth and claws sunk into enough for me to be like, finally we're going somewhere. It just felt like it would get to it and then it would just peter out, and I'd be like, okay, that's not the climax I was after. There was a lot of heartwarming moments, particularly when Dev was just being really lovely, and some of the scenes with this little family that he became quite close with that lived on the beach near his work. But other than that, like, there wasn't really much more to it, and I was just left feeling like, I've kind of wasted my time a little bit. So that's unfortunate, but I will pick up another Stephen King book, hopefully within the summer, because I can't just leave it at the one. I need to try at least another one and hopefully love it, or at least like it more than this one. Okay, and lastly, a little bit more of a positive note to end on. I read Minecraft Volume 1. I don't know how to pronounce this author's name. I think it's Sve? I'm not too sure. Our Monster, and this is adventure middle grade, and I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. We're following Tyler and his friends as they decide to go on the ultimate quest, which is traveling to the end and facing off against the Ender Dragon within the game Minecraft. This was so sweet, and the art style really reminded me of Craig of the Creek, which was one of my favourite shows. I haven't watched it in ages though, but when I had Cartoon Network a couple of years ago, or up until a couple of years ago, I absolutely adored that show. I loved that teamwork was such a main theme of this story, as well as friendship. Tyler has just moved to a new area, and it's a different time zone to where his friends that he plays Minecraft with all live, so they all come from like the same school. So he's finding it quite difficult, he's feeling a little bit left out, but it's really like a lovely story in amongst the adventuring within the game, and I really liked how they depicted in-game versus in real life as well. So those are all the books I've read so far in July. As I say, it's been a bit of a dud so far. I can only hope that the rest of the month picks up a little bit more. I'm in the middle of a couple of books. As always, I've had the same like 2 or 3 on my currently reading for months at this point, so I do kind of need to knuckle down on those, but at this moment in time they're not really like top priority. I am kind of just in I'm a mood reader anyway, but I'm in a very much mood reader kind of vibe. Obviously I have Stephen King in the back of my mind, but I just kind of want to go with the flow and just enjoy, like, because I've got a couple of periods of time off, I just want to enjoy a good book that I can just devour quite quickly and enjoy it and move on to the next one. Do you know what I mean? Not necessarily like your quote-unquote typical summer reads, but that's what I'm thirsting for at the moment. And whilst I'm talking about thirsting, I realised I hadn't had any of my drink. Have you guys tried the Fanta strawberry? It's like one of my favourite things at the minute. My other half loves the peach one. I'm all about the strawberry. All about the strawberry. It's so good. Oh my god, it gets me buzzed, honestly. Anyway, that is that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm sure I'll catch you in another video soon. Bye.